I love power. I love being in charge. My heart sings when I can make decisions that benefit me and others must carry out. As the oldest of two boys, I learned to love power as a kid. If there was a chore I didn't feel like doing, I simply threatened my younger brother and made him do the chore. Then I learned I could stage events and get Alan, my little red-headed brother, in trouble without him actually doing anything. My favorite was to stand in the hall, put my head in the bedroom door, and hold it snug while yelling, "Alan is holding my head in the door!" The scheme worked a couple of times before Mom caught on. What a power trip. Unfortunately, I continued to use power in this way during my young adult life. And we all know people who have never kicked the habit of abusive power. By the way, my brother finally got revenge. 50 years later, when my wife needed a liver transplant, Alan became the living donor by providing her with 60% of his liver. In return, he has a 2-foot scar across his abdomen and suffered through a week of hell immediately following the transplant. Now, who used their power appropriately? Who has a lasting feeling of satisfaction instead of embarrassment? Who acted like a real brother? Power scares us, yet we crave it. We fear power as it easily turns ugly. But we crave power to gain autonomy and control over our lives. Many of us have scars from people who have exerted their power over us for the purpose of abusing us emotionally, physically, or sexually. We have seen power corrupt individuals, believing they are above the law. Most of us, as individuals, have used power to gain advantage over someone or for personal gain. These horrible examples contribute to the ideas of the badness of power. Yet power also has good impact on our lives. We want to have a voice at work. We want power to make what we think are good decisions for our families, including education, medical care, and opportunity. We want power to make life good. This is why it is important that we understand how to use power. Once we understand the appropriate use of power, we should desire to gain more. What? Yes, to gain more power when we use it right. This is why we need to understand the power exhibited by the universe and align ourselves to this power in benevolent and creative ways. You will recall in episode 2 where we discovered 2 major characteristics of the universe's power: benevolent and creative. Benevolent in the sense that the universe's various dynamics sustain us here on earth. If our universe were hostile, our small pale blue dot would not exist. The universe's power is creative in the sense that new stars constantly are being formed, as well as new galaxies, while constantly expanding. What does this power look like? If Christ's power represented as benevolent and creative by the universe, how does that power manifest itself on earth? Let's review 2 examples of individuals who never held political office, never led a large global business, or never fired upon others, and yet are considered 2 of the most powerful people of the 20th century. The 1999 Gallup poll report on the results of its most admired person of the 20th century gave the first spot to Mother Teresa and the second spot to Martin Luther King Jr. Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King Jr. changed the world without the normal trappings of political power. It is unbelievable as to what they accomplished in their lifetimes. Both won Nobel Peace Prizes. Decades after their deaths, their words still resonate at a global level. What made them so powerful? First, an attitude of benevolence. Mother Teresa, every day of her 17 years of teaching in Calcutta, kept looking out of the convent window at the extreme poverty and suffering taking place in the streets below. Martin Luther King Jr.'s mentor, Benjamin Hayes, influenced King during his college years as Hayes advocated for racial equality. By the time Martin Luther King finished his doctoral work, he was a member of the executive committee of the NAACP. He and his wife, Coretta, moved to Montgomery, Alabama, less than 2 years before Rosa Parks would refuse to give up her seat on a city bus. Both great leaders reacted to these events with an ever-growing capacity of benevolence towards oppressed people. This alignment with the true character of power enabled them to act with courage. But this is just half the story. Second, their attitude of benevolence was followed by creative insight. Mother Teresa went to her superiors and requested to be allowed to leave the convent and go out into the streets and serve the hungry and sick people filling the poorest slums in Calcutta. This was an unusual request, to leave your order and go out alone. Yet, this gave Mother Teresa the freedom to serve the people and draw in a wide variety of volunteers to help. Soon, she had created a new order of nuns that grew into a global service group helping the hungry and sick. Martin Luther King Jr.'s creative insight was to protest the injustice towards people of color with nonviolent tactics. King, through his theological studies and research on the life of Gandhi, prepared him to make this decision. And when a nonviolent, peaceful protest was attacked in Selma, the pictures created a new wave of public support for the civil rights movement. Their commitment to using their personal power in a benevolent and creative way cost them significantly. Mother Teresa lived with the very people she served, always taking the prize money from the Nobel Peace Prize and other similar awards and giving the money to help the needy. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested over 20 times, assaulted 4 times. His home burned to the ground following the Montgomery bus boycott, was targeted for assassination twice, with the second time, unfortunately, taking his life. Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King Jr. may have had scores of unanswered questions in their lives, but they knew why their feet hit the floor every morning. Listen to their quotes. "We are for today. When tomorrow will come, we shall see what we can do. Somebody is thirsty for water today, hungry for food today. Tomorrow we will not have them if we don't feed them today. So be concerned with what you can do today." Martin Luther King Jr. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? That's power. Their lives were dedicated to serving the oppressed, the hungry, and the sick. And because they committed themselves to benevolence and creativity in the way they yielded their power, their lives continue to challenge and change the world. Their lives mirror the benevolent and creative love of Christ, and this is what I want you to understand. Now we must consider ourselves. We feel out of control as we watch the global markets fluctuating wildly, pandemics spreading rapidly, enduring an abusive spouse or a rebellious child, and our knee-jerk reaction is to respond through trying to exert our power to gain control. Folks, we are never going to gain control over global markets, pandemics. Abusive relationships may not have the ability to mend and may simply have to end. Rebellious children may experience challenges later in life that make them love again, but the use of manipulative power by a parent will not change the child. We must not be frozen by the fear of these situations and many others. We need to learn that we have great power when we choose to act benevolently towards another individual or group in a fresh and creative way not considered in the past. Each day you can decide that you will seek the good of someone else in a way that has meaning to them. This is our greatest use of power, and the way to experience an unlimited amount of power. This is where we exert control over our daily activities and the control of our inner attitudes. This is where we change the world around us and change ourselves within. This is mimicking the power of the universe and the character of Christ. You didn't know that, guy, did you? Surprisingly, power is the first characteristic to draw us towards Christ, a power defined by benevolence and creativity used to benefit others. This is exactly what I need to understand my role as a human. Christ offers this power to each of us. He reminds us, Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Remember to follow Reconsider Christ to receive reminders of what we are discovering and experiencing throughout Season 1. Next episode, we will explore what the universe teaches us about love. Peace.